Getting ready to change out a pulley. Should have changed it last year when I had the water pump out and was putting on a new one. I replaced one pulley, but I've since developed a racket and a wind, and it's coming from the front here on the left, so I think it's going to be the pulley right there on the left, down below the tensioner. I'm going to try to do this without taking out the fan and the fan shroud. We'll see. I have just done a test fit. I can get a 14mm wrench down to that bolt without an issue. So I'm going to try to take this belt off, check that out, and replace it. See, hopefully that's the one. If not, might be replacing the whole tensioner unit instead. And I'm not convinced totally that it's not the alternator pulley here, which I can get one of these as well. So we'll find out here in a few minutes. And while we're doing this too, I got a Fumoto valve. I got the one without the nipple, just because I didn't want that more extension hanging out. But I've had one of these on every truck I've owned, and I'm going to go ahead and put one on this because the oil changes on this are an absolute mess. So it uses a spring-loaded tension here to open and close. Golly, I can't even get that with one hand. And it uses a felt type washer on it, so you got to be careful with this when you're wrenching it down. But I'm going to put this on and update the progress here on this fan pulley. Well, not fan pulley, but idler pulley. Back at the replacement here of these pulleys. Unfortunately, I only ordered one pulley, AC Delco, to replace this one, which is really, really bad. You can't tell, but this thing is horrible. And it's done. So I knew I had to replace it. But last year, I replaced the other one last December. I figured I'd check it while I was in there. And it's got a spot that's hanging up too, so I'm going to replace them both and just keep this one as a spare. It's not bad, but I don't want to have to replace these things again. So this time I'm replacing them in pairs. So I got an AC Delco. This is for an 06 Duramax D-VIN to LBZ. So there's your part number for AC Delco. But since I only planned on one being bad, I only ordered one. So I had to go to AutoZone. They were out of the AC Delco. This is the Duralast, and there's a part number for you on that. So it's identical to the one that I'm going to go ahead and replace that I put on last year. But I'm going to replace them in pairs this time. That way I know for sure they're good to go. And I ended up taking out the fan and the fan shroud to do this. So we're going to replace both of those right now and then put this all back together. So there are the new pulleys. Both are on. Belt's back on. No issues there. I got lucky on the bottom there where you normally have that belt slip off right there. Actually, it usually slips off down on this side. Didn't have any issues with that. I was able to keep everything tightened up on the other pulleys just long enough to where I could get all that taken care of. So I didn't end up with any troubles getting that back on. So if you're going to replace these, that is a 14mm bolt right there. Both of those are 14mm. Somebody may have monkeyed them on, so if they are, just watch your knuckles, because depending on how you set your wrench up, you can end up slamming your knuckles on the tensioner. Other than that, when you do your fan bolt here, it is a if you're looking at it, you need it to go counterclockwise, so it's a left, what does that make that, a right thread, I think? But it's a left hand turn, so you'll want to use a air hammer, or what I use is a cold chisel and a 3-pound small mallet, and I hit the nut on there, and eventually the fan will turn with, or the bolt will turn with the fan once it breaks loose off of here, but you got to give it a little force, and you may tear up the nut just a little bit, but it's all part of getting it off. When you put it back on, of course, tighten to the right, hand tight, and then when you fire up the motor, it'll tighten itself back. You don't have to do any further tightening on that. When you put the fan shroud back in, be mindful that you've got down here underneath where my breaker bar is, you've got the mounting bracket on that side, and then your other mounting bracket is right there below your power steering pulley, right down there. That can be accessed through the wheel well on the driver's side, and you can get to it pretty easy, but this one over here, you can't get to that one very easy. That is a pain in the butt. You can remove the intake here to the EGR, I believe. You can pull this off or pull the boot off and have a little better access, but I think what I'm going to do at this point for this bracket is I'm going to end up using a zip tie to put that back together. That way if I ever need to get in here again, I'll just take my little wire clipper snips, reach down there and pop that to make that one easier. But all in all, now I'm going to put this back together, put the air filter back in there. Those little drops of antifreeze, by the way, no, I don't have head gasket issues. I actually just had them replaced back in December of last year, and they're fine now. But after I get done with this, then we're going to go back here and we're going to change the fuel filter, hiding right there. Alright, so I've been letting this drain while I've been busy doing other stuff under the on the top of the motor. It's replacing a idler pulley that went bad, so it's been draining about 3 hours. You'll never get everything out of it, but I do have it on jack on a couple ramps, so it's getting most of it out. There's not much left up in here, but anyway, it's pretty straightforward. Fumoto valve. This is an F106, and this is supposed to be the proper thread for this truck. And you just thread it on there and make sure once it's hand tight, I take a wrench and to tighten it some more. You want to be careful with this thing. You don't want to over tighten the crap out of it, but you want it to stay where it ain't going nowhere. So use your discretion, just don't strong arm the crap out of it. That's probably good. Now it's got that, you can see it's got the spring-loaded valve right here. So all I do to change the oil, press and turn. I'm not going to do that now because I don't want to spill anything that's already in there, but that's it. And it's got a little ball valve up in there that stays closed. Piece of cake though for Fumoto Valve. No more messy oil changes.